Hello, so I'm going to make a cake for my mother's birthday. I'm not telling you how old she's going to be. The cake is going to be a 4-layered chocolate cake with white buttercream icing and a pink drip and fondant roses on it as well. So I'm starting with about 900 grams of flour, just self-rising flour, and also 100 grams of cocoa powder. It's all been mixed in together, and I've also put in there 2 teaspoons of bicarbonate soda. So to this I'm going to add, first of all, 240 mils of just normal vegetable oil. I like to use oil as my fat base instead of butter. I think it makes the cake a lot more moist. And then I'm also going to add in 6 eggs. So I've got the oil and the eggs in here now. I'm just going to lightly mix it in. And then I'm going to also add about 460 mils of water. This cake comes out really moist, and it's just a basic chocolate cake, but it's really delicious. So I finished mixing all the batter together. It's quite runny, but it's actually quite thick, but it's still runny. And now I'm just going to spoon it into these buttered cake tins. I like doing smaller layers because then you can put a bit of buttercream in between the layers. So you want to keep the layers as even as possible. That's why I like to spoon them out. That way you can see how many spoons you need per layer. You can probably see I still have about half of the batter left, so I'm going to do 2 more layers once these are out of the oven. So I've made the cakes last night and they've come out quite nicely. They're quite soft, very moist cakes, but I know they're quite sturdy. I've used this recipe before. I've made 2 cakes that are a little bit thicker than these 2 cakes. So these 2 are going to be at the base of the cake, and we'll put those 2 on the top. They have come up quite even on the top, but it's not perfect, so I just need to slice a little bit off the top and it will become perfectly flat and level, and then we can put the buttercream on it. So in here I'm going to make the buttercream icing. I've got 1.5 sticks of butter. That's around about 350 to 400 grams of butter. When I make buttercream, I don't really go by set measurements, but I know 1.5 sticks makes enough buttercream for me to entirely coat these cakes and also to pipe some decorations on the top. So I've got 1.5 sticks of butter, and I've got 2 boxes of royal icing sugar. 1.5 sticks will normally use about 1.5 packs of icing sugar. I'm also in here going to put some milk or double cream. Double cream is really good for hardening up the buttercream as well. So I have a hand mixer, which I'm going to just soften the butter. And then once the butter is softened, I'll add some double cream into it and also add the icing sugar. So I've whipped the butter now until it's light and creamy, so it's not as yellow as it looked earlier. And now I've got the icing sugar that's been sifted, and I'll add it in little bits. So I've got 2 spoons of it in here, and we'll just whip it up now. So I've mixed in all the icing sugar into the butter and the cream now, and I've also added a little bit of vanilla bean paste. I like to use the paste because it gives a much stronger flavour, and it's ready to be used as icing now. So I've got the first base of the cake. I'm just going to put a layer of icing onto the bottom first. So I'll take this off. put a very small layer of icing onto it, just so the cake will stick onto the cake board. And I'm going to start doing the icing in between the layers now. Sweet, and my family don't like it if the buttercream is overpowering. So now we've put all 4 layers of the cake on, and I've smoothed out the top as well. So I'm going to do a crumb coating around the edge of the cake, just to seal in all the crumbs, because as you can see there's a lot of crumbs coming out around the cake. So to do this, you just take your icing and you just put a little bit on at a time. So now, because my mother really likes roses, I'm going to make some fondant roses. I have this white flour modeling paste. So you just take a little bit off. I've just been working it through my fingers just to try and warm it up a bit. So it's quite nice and soft now. I've put a little bit of icing sugar on the worktop, and I'm just going to roll it out. You can make really, really lovely intricate flowers with this. All I like to do is just roll it as thin as possible, and then I'll cut small circle pieces, and using that I will mold them all together to make the petals. So now I have a very thin piece of fondant, and I've got a cap here. So I'm going to cut out circles of the fondant, and then using that, I'll just put them aside for now. So now I have 6 circular pieces of fondant, and with the first one I'm just going to dip my finger in water a little bit and put some water on half of the fondant. That just makes it wet, so it'll act as a glue when it's stuck together. With that piece, I'm going to, on the glue side, pinch it together as I roll it up a little bit. We want the first one to be rolled up quite tight because this is going to be the rose bud. And following that, I'm just going to add a little bit of water to the point of the roll and keep adding our petals around it. As we add, you can let the tip of the petal fall a little bit, so it will give it a nice lip. And I'm just squeezing them together at the bottom so it will hold together nicely. Now I'll keep making more circles and adding them to the flower until it forms a whole flower. So I've made a few more circle discs of the fondant, so I'm going to keep adding it to the rose until I get a nice big full rose. I'll make a few more smaller roses as well, but for now a nice big rose is what I want. So I'm just going to stretch out on one side of the circle just to make the petals start feeling a little bit more realistic. That way it'll fold and crease the way a normal petal would. And again, just add on the side that I haven't stretched out, I'm just adding a little bit of water. And now I'll add it to the rose that I made earlier. And the petals should start falling open now. And I'm going to keep doing that until I get a nice big rose. So I'm just using my fingers to stretch out half of the circle, and then add a little bit of water to the bottom that hasn't been stretched out, and just keep adding. So I'm happy with the size of the rose now. If you want it a little bit bigger, you can just keep adding layers. Be aware that the bottom of the rose it means that will be a little bit thicker, so you can always cut the bottom off if you want to. So I'm going to let this sit to one side, and the beauty of modeling paste is that it will set and harden, and this flower will become really nice and So now you can see the flower. It looks like a really pretty rose. Later on I might add a little bit of colour to this because I want my mother's cake to be pink or red themed. So I might just add a little bit of food colouring to the edges and just give it a little bit more depth. So I've done the clean coating of icing on the top now, and this is just white chocolate with a bit of double cream that's been melted down and mixed in, and I also put some pink food colouring because I want the theme of this cake to be pink and roses. So I'm just going to make the drip icing now around the edge of the cake. I'm just going to turn the cake around as I do it. And if you find that some of the drips aren't falling far down enough, you can just go ahead and add a little bit more to it and that will pull itself down. So here I've just got our roses that we made earlier. I just picked out two of the best ones to show you. And in this bowl I have a tiny little bit of water and I'm going to add some red food colouring to it. Now with a paintbrush, I'm just going to mix this in. So now I have really nice red colour water, and with that water I'm going to dab as much as I can off, and I'm going to take one of our roses and I'm going to just add a little bit of colour to the edge of each petal. So you get a really nice gradiented colour, and we'll add a bit of pink into the centre of them as well. So now I'm just adding a little bit of pink to the inside of the petals. I don't want to completely cover the white because I think it looks quite nice giving it a bit of a gradient. So my hands are getting a little bit messy, but I've now put the first white rose on top. So I'm going to keep going, add a bit of colour to it, but maybe leave some of them white as well. So now I've put all the big roses on the cake. I have some pink edible glitter, which I'm just going to spray on and around the roses. And it just gives it a really lovely shine. And then on the white roses also. And just to finish off, I have these really lovely little roses. I don't think I'd be able to do anything so delicate, so I'm just going to stick this in and around the big roses and also across the side of the rose. So after I put all the fondant roses on it and also the little roses, I just used a little piping bag and cut a triangle into it to make these little leaves, which adds a lot of detail to it. And I also stuck it onto the sides and I added the leaves onto the sides. So this is the finished product. And just to top it all off, we have to put the birthday sign on it. So we do this. There we go. So happy birthday, Amma. I hope my mother really likes this cake. She's a huge fan of gardening and roses, so this should be right up her street. Or garden. Right up her garden.
Please stop talking.
Wow! My God! Did you make it, Amma?
Yeah, Ma.
You came back last night. How did you manage today?
I made the cake last night. I just iced it today.
After I gone to sleep, I thought you were going to buy the cake. My God! My favorite color, my favorite flower, rose. Is this flowers real? Did you make?
No, they're fondant flowers.
Did you make it?
Real flowers are obviously real.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can we cut the cake now, please?
Yes.